Hi guys, welcome back again to the Real Talk with Chelsea. How are you doing today? Today we're going to be diving in on the 8 causes of negative self-talk and how to overcome negative self-talk. Before I start, I would like you to know that you are more than enough. I always say this to everyone and anyone around me that you are more than enough. Do not let your past determine who you are. Do not let your past speak for you. And do not fall into the trap of being in a bubble and thinking that you're not better than anyone else because you are better. You just have to change your mindset and have the abundance mentality that you can do all things and you are better than anyone. I believe if you start walking around with that mindset that you will better, you will better. And being better can be in terms of your skills, in terms of who you are as a person and what you have to offer. The moment you start thinking about that, then you would know that you're actually better than anyone. And you say the word like negative self talk, it comes from what we think up here. Like the moment you start thinking about things, it just has a way of spoiling things for you and just has a way of like changing who you are. And before you know it, the thoughts you begin to have in your head begin to come out in your emotion. In our last topic, we talked about how to manage your emotions. You can check that out. It begins to come out in your emotions and it begins to play a lot in the way you see yourself. I'll be talking about 8 causes of negative self talk and how to avoid and overcome negative self talk. The first one would be critical life experience. Critical life experience, it could be your past trauma. What exactly did you go through while growing up? A lot of us who went through not growing up in a privileged environment. And if you grew up in a privileged environment, it could be your parents not having time for you or just this little things. It could even be a past relationship that makes you question yourself, like, who am I? Have you ever like gotten into a relationship and when things don't work out, you begin to question yourself, why? Like, why didn't it work out? And if you get out of 5 relationship within a stretch of 2 years, that's even worse because you start thinking about yourself like, is there something? You begin to question yourself and you begin to say, oh, I think I'm the problem, but you're not the problem. A lot of times when you get out of a relationship, you need to sit back, take notes, journal, write in your journals or your notebook or a diary and reflect on what happened in a relationship. And if there is something you need to build yourself on, go ahead and build yourself on that. You understand? So the first one is just critical life experiences, things that have just changed our lives as a whole. Sometimes it could even be like you hurting someone and the words they said back to you, it gets so much to you that now you begin to see yourself, the way the person says you are. The next one is perfectionism and high standards. I hope I mentioned that well. Um, for that, I would say when you raise yourself to a very high standard, like you're like, it has to be 100%. I have to give my 100% in doing this. It has to be like XYZ. It has to look this way. One thing about people that place high standards for themselves is when things don't go their way, it has a way of messing them up. And some people it doesn't affect them the way we would think it would affect people. When I say it has a way of messing people up, because sometimes you find yourself like, oh my god, does it mean I'm not better than this? Does it mean I cannot do this? I thought I actually spent 10. If you took a course online, you could just start questioning yourself. I thought I took 20 hours of lectures, and now I'm being put on the job and I don't understand. Like, I'm not doing it right. And it's not because you're not doing it right, it's because you're forgetting the work you've put in. You're forgetting that you're actually good. It's just you're missing one or two things. And when you're missing one or two things, you're meant to sit back and think about it. Do not judge yourself. Do not be so critical on yourself. We always like place so much criticism on ourselves. Um and things don't work out the way we want it to work out. And it's you just have to put grace on yourself. You understand? Like placing grace on yourself, even if it doesn't work out, you have to place grace on yourself. Next point is comparing yourself with others. Oh my god, that is a major one. And I feel like this plays a lot in every aspect of our life, all the way from when we were growing up as kids. You begin to question yourself and like, why didn't I do very well like my classmates? If you're like the one that's always getting the last position in the class, you're always like, why am I not doing well? Why why is this person doing better than me? You understand? So, and the next stage could even be relationship. You're like, oh, in this person's relationship, it's always doing this, always doing that. And my relationship is just boring. It's not what I want it to be. It's not because it's not what you want it to be. It's what you want. All you want other people relationship in your relationship. In terms of career, when you graduate from school, you're like, I want to get this job, that job. You and your friends, you're like in a group and you guys are like just talking, like, I'm going to get this job and that job. And like, you have these high goals for yourself as friends, which is a good thing, setting high goals for yourself. Um, and then when you finally get a job, you find out that all your friends are working in your dream job and you're just stuck. You're stuck in where you don't want to be. The thing about that is you begin to question, you begin to question yourself like, why is everyone getting what I've always wanted? Like, why can I get more? You understand? Like, why can I get more? And you're forgetting that your journey in life is different from everyone's journey in life. Your The path you take in life is totally different. You shouldn't compare yourself to every other person, because the moment you start comparing yourself, you begin to misalign from your journey in life. The most important thing is setting a goal for yourself. And if you don't reach that goal, you have to sit back, reevaluate, and then keep pushing. If you don't get your dream job, you sit back, reevaluate. Why didn't I get this dream job? You understand? Why didn't I get this dream job? Look at the skills that they're asking for. Look at everything. And if it's something that you have to take a short online course for, go ahead and do it, because there are like different online courses or online platform you can take courses like Coursera, Udemy, and so many other popular ones. Go ahead and take those courses and reapply. And you might be fortunate enough, like the job you didn't even think you would get, you end up getting it, because now you're going far and beyond. And think about it, when you're even doing a job interview, questions like, why should we pick you for this job? Now you find yourself saying, I did this, and I've grown tremendously well in my current role. You have a stronger application than someone that's not putting in the work just like you. So please and please Do not compare yourself with anyone because you're unique. You and I were two different beings. The way we process things are two different ways. And that's what makes you so special because you and I were different. We probably even have different genetic materials. Like what makes you you is different from what makes me me. The way I sleep is probably different from the way you sleep. The way you think is definitely different from the way I think. So never compare yourself with anyone. If it's taking time for you to achieve something, it's okay. All right, it's okay. The most important thing is you're not stopping. Because when you even start comparing yourself, it becomes unhealthy and you start feeling jealousy, like jealousy from nowhere. You just start feeling it towards the people that have gone far and beyond you, and you shouldn't even feel that way. The next one would be internalized criticism. And I would say this on like when people around you are saying negative things about you, such as like your teacher, your parents, your peer groups, yeah, or even yourself. When you're so used to hearing negative talks from everyone, like your parents are like saying, you're not good enough, or I wouldn't even say you're not good enough because I don't even think any parents would say that. When a parent says, why are you not doing this? Someone else is doing that. Why is it taking forever to do this? Or would I say like an African thing that you need to get A's, all straight A's in your exams, and why are you getting a B? What did you leave the B for? You understand? So it's just, and that's like for the part of parents and the part of teachers. It's like true story. I'm not even kidding. When I was doing the SAT to come from my home country, when I was doing the SAT to come from my home country over to America to study, I had problems with the math section because I went for like a tutorial on like the SAT math section, and I was having difficulties and I couldn't even figure out why I wasn't understanding. So my parents, they got me like a homeschool teacher to actually teach me so I can understand even better. And why this man was, I mean, I believe that his job is to actually tutor me, like talk to me and encourage me and walk me through the problems. Literally, what he said to me on one fateful day that I didn't even do so well was, you're not smart, you're dumb. And I was like, I didn't understand. As of that moment, all I know as of that moment is I started crying. And I remember when he left, I walked up to my mom because my mom was at home that day. And I was like, this man, because I got 2 out of 10. And I know that's bad, but because I got 2 out of 10, I was like, Mom, I got 2 out of 10. And he said, I'm dumb. And I don't know what I'm doing. And my mom said, are you gonna let the words that he says to you determine who you are? Or are you gonna let the word see who you are? And I sat back and I was just thinking, would I let what he says determine who I am? No. But it really hurts me. Like it hurts me to my bones because I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Fast forward the stories, I finally came to America. And when I tell you that all my maths classes, like plain trig, statistics, calculus, I don't know, I think it's a basic mathematics 1. I don't even know, I forgot. Um, when I tell you that I never read for those classes, but I came out with A's, Even like down to calculus, because you would hear things like, oh, calculus is really hard and all that stuff. I was going to take calculus too, actually, but I was like, I need to graduate. But all my math classes, I never read for them. Now imagine if my mom didn't say something positive to me or speak positive to me. I probably would take after that mindset, like, I'm actually dumb. Like, I don't even think I'm good at math. But moving forward, now that I think about it, I'm like, I'm actually good in math. I just think he was a bad teacher. And that's another mindset. I'm actually good in this, but I just think they're very bad in teaching me to make me understand. So, and that's like in terms of like, your parents and your teachers having a way of playing in the way you actually talk to yourself. Another one could be your peer groups. How would I say this? Even in terms of peer groups, I feel like I don't even feel like, I believe you need to be careful who you call your friends and who you keep in your circle, because the moment you start hanging around with negative mindsets, people that are always saying negative things to themselves and are actually not even trying to break through from having those mindsets, the moment you start hanging and talking to them, you begin to think like them. That's why you hear that phrase of like, tell me who you are, or show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. I promise you, that's like a huge, and it's a heavy statement. It holds weight because it just makes sense. It just makes so much sense. You cannot say, for example, if you're trying to quit smoking, you cannot tell me that you're trying to quit smoking and everyone in your circle are either smoking or smoking weed. How on earth are you gonna stop smoking? Or you cannot tell me that you have friends that are always afraid and always anxious, and you wouldn't find yourself being anxious. You're definitely gonna find yourself being anxious here or there. And even if you being anxious is just a one-time thing, who exactly are you gonna run to? There's no how you're gonna run to those friends because they're already dealing with something that just came up for you. And so dealing with it becomes close to nothing for you, because now it's like you have to feed yourself with like online materials on how to be better. You have to feed yourself with online materials on how to avoid certain things. So avoiding a cycle that wouldn't improve your life positively is the best option for you. Avoid any kind of cycle that would not improve your life. And that's why, like, I would say, like, my pastor from my church would say, he would say, if you want to go far in life, be careful of who you keep in your circle. I promise you, it has a lot to play. Because even like when I graduated from like school, I had to like cut people off. And cutting people off isn't a bad thing, especially if you have a true and just reason why you want to cut them off. Cutting people off is not a bad thing. You just have to be sure on, why am I cutting this person off? So I had to cut people off because I felt like I was always surrounded by like negative vibes, and I wasn't all about negative vibes. I needed people that would uplift my spirits even if I was down. And one way or the other, the moment I the moment I was intentional about cutting people off, when I tell you that I was more happier, I was more joyful about everything and anything. Like I could do everything. And whenever like I would feel sad or whatever, guess who I run to? I run to the people that I have in my positive circle. And it's so easy for them to say, hey Chelsea, why are you stopping right now? Why are you giving up right now? And I see myself going back up again. And it doesn't even mean that all my friends in my positive circle were like always positive and all that stuff. When they're also down, guess who they run to? They also run to we, like their other friends, like me or like someone else, and they talk to that person. So it's like we all uplift ourselves at the same time. Uplifting ourselves in our circle is a good thing, and that's why you shouldn't keep a negative circle. You shouldn't keep someone that cannot doesn't even have the right word to say, or like, because I mean, why would they have a right word to say if they've never lived that reality? How would they tell you you should be happy if they're always angry, if they're always anxious? It's just gonna be difficult for you. The next one is low self-esteem. For this low self-esteem, I have a story for this. Back when I was actually growing up in high school, everyone, when I say everyone, we call it like JSS2. I don't know what it is in America. I think it's high school. I mean, it's high school. But when I was in high school, I would call it high school. When I was in high school, I was a late bloomer. When I say late bloomer, like I didn't develop like physical attributes really fast, like the boobs and the butts. I didn't develop all that really fast. And I know that for a while, like when I sit back, I'm like, oh my God, everyone in my class, already has all these features and I don't have any. And literally, my prayer to God would always be, God, like, help me, like, help me, oh Lord. I don't know what's going on with me. Like, why am I not blooming the way I would love to bloom? Why? And the more I kept going to school and the more I kept seeing, my mates in high school looking all like good and having what I felt like I needed as of that time, the more I felt, you know, conscious, like, oh my God, maybe I should tell my mom to get me like a padded bra or like, I just felt out of place. I really felt out of place. And I know one thing led to another. There was a guy that actually was asking me out back in high school. I was like, no, I'm sorry, no. We're in high school and we're here to learn. So like, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm just trying to read my book and be a child and be a kid and just grow. And after like persisting and trying to get my attention, things just didn't work out. And before I knew it, it went around calling me flat TV screen. And you know the way a TV screen is flat, like flat. And I didn't even get the joke. I didn't even know that that's what it meant, flat TV screen. It was when my best friend, who was a guy back then, was like, "Oh, Chelsea, like, do you know what flat TV screen is?" And I was like, "I don't understand." It was like flat TV screen, and I was like, I felt so sad. And mind you, looking at this whole journey, it started eating into me. It actually started eating into my personality, started eating into how I viewed myself, and slowly I began to have a low self esteem. And I feel like my saving grace was my mom. She came to school at random. Like, I would always take the school bus, but she actually came to school that day and she saw me in the playground just on my own. And I didn't even, it's crazy. I didn't even know that she was at school. I was just all alone, just on the swing, just swinging. And I don't even know what I was saying to myself right now, but I can't remember what I was saying back then, but I know I was saying something to myself. And all I know is my mom walked up to me. I was like, let's go home. I couldn't even say I was excited to see my mom. Actually, I don't even know if I was excited to see her. I was just like, okay, let's go home. And then the next day, my mom said, You're not going back to that school. I'm gonna change your school." And I was like, "Why? Like, why are you changing the school?" And she was like, "I'll let you know when the time is right." I was like, "Okay." And for like about 2 weeks, I didn't go back to school because my mom was trying to like enroll me to like a new school and all that stuff. And finally, I got the admission and finally got enrolled. And after like my first week, she asked me, "How is school going?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool. It's cozy. There's no drama going on." And she was like, "Okay." Um, and then it was like on a Saturday night. She came to me. I was like, "Do you know why I changed you from that school?" And I was like, "Why?" She was like, "Well, I saw you sitting all alone. And I actually studied child psychology, so I know all these things." I'm like, "Oh my God, mommy, just go straight to the point." She's like, "I saw you sitting all alone, and I realized that there's something wrong. It's either you're being bullied or you're not happy in this environment." And then I told my mom about everything, and she was like, "See, I know all these things." I was like, "Oh my God, mommy." And so, well, as of that moment, that was a very big thing for me. That was a sweet and big thing for me, and it's a big thing for me because if she did not change me, if she didn't change my school, if she didn't tell me that, "Hey, you're not going back to that school," it would have probably affected me even more because when I got to the new school, I felt more, what I say, more loved. And I only spent like a semester in that school, and then I changed school again because my mom felt like, well, the standard of education isn't all that high, so I want you to, go to a better school. And I promise you that as of that moment, I realized that the problem was not me. The problem wasn't that I wasn't having all this physical attribute the way I wanted to have it real quick. The problem was that school and every kid and every child in that school. They were the problem. I wasn't the problem. Um, my my last, what I say, high school, it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. I had the best friends. I had someone that literally said, actually a guy, he said, "Oh, I noticed you actually walk a certain way. Hey, you need to be free and just be happy and all that stuff." And it was like, "Oh, don't feel any kind of way, right?" And when he said don't feel any kind of way, I mean, I knew he was speaking in quotes. I knew he was telling me, um, "We know you putting yourself in a way because you don't have all these physical attributes." And it was like, "Just be free." And I promise you, I was so free and I was so happy, and I had the best, when I say the best, high school experience. And really, as parents, I believe we need to pay little attention to like change of attitudes in our children, how they act. And when you start saying certain things, that's when you need to start acting, and so you don't miss anything. Because I promise you, the little things they go through, and guess what? Children actually spend more time with outsiders than with you because they're going to school, they're hanging out with friends. They get more information from outside than they get from inside. And it's the little things that you see. And try as much as possible to be involved in your child's life, not just being involved like physically, but like emotionally, like saying exactly what is changing about them. So yeah, the next one would be a social and cultural influence, and I would say this is probably it. This probably has more to do with like the beauty standards. I remember back then, everyone around me, it felt like everyone around me wanted to have a light skin, because like having all light skin, I felt like light skin was like a beauty standard. Like if you're not light skin, you're not beautiful. And I remember back then, my sister, she's actually light skinned. And back then, I'll be like, oh my God, I wish I was so light skinned like my sister. Like, why is my skin darker? And later on, I stopped caring. And I think it's probably because I wasn't necessarily exposed so much to that environment. Like, I've heard this here and there, like, oh, light skin. And it felt like all the light skinned ladies get to have more guys talking to them than dark skinned ladies. And it felt like the dark skinned ladies are like invisible and like no one is actually seeing them. But I don't know. I think life now is changing, and like the more we evolve, I feel like maybe there will still be like a little percentage of like black men still actively looking for light skinned ladies. But like as the world has evolved, it's like, oh, black is like the new beauty. And I don't know, but like if whatever your complexion is, black, red, orange, yellow, you're the new beauty. That's say that for yourself. If you're black, your black is the new beauty. If you're white, your white is the new beauty. If you're orange, your orange is the new beauty. You need to say that. So like even if like people are talking, oh ew, I don't like your skin. You say, well, you're missing a lot. You're actually missing a lot because the skin is the new beauty. So yeah, I feel like in terms of like the social and cultural influences, it's more like a unrealistic beauty standards. And social media, oh my god, don't get me started on social media. Social media is it has a terrible terrible influence on like our self-esteem, because when you come online you see, trust me, before I go further, people would only post their happy times. They would never post their sad times. And the percentage of people that post their sad times are so little compared to the amount of, like the noise coming from the positive side, like, oh, I'm living large, I'm driving this, I'm driving that. Guess what? They're living large, but most of them are not going to show you their credit score. They're living large, but most of them are not going to show you their bank account. They're living large, but they're not going to show you the amount of loans that they have accumulated. And this is very unrealistic, really. Do not compare your journey, do not compare your life. If you're if you're living poor and you came online and you saw someone that is living large, please do not compare yourself to that person. Like, do not compare yourself to that person. Just say, oh, it's nice, and keep it moving. Like, really keep it moving, because it's not worth it. It's not worth the emotional stress. It's not worth the, oh my God, I wish I had. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep growing. Oh my God. And the next unrealistic, what I say, beauty standard, that's been affected by affected to us by social media would be the BBL. Now, people that get, breast reduction or breast enlargement or BBL, I don't want to like criticize. No, I think if that's what you want and it's gonna boost your self-esteem, so be it. Go ahead and do it. And if you believe that you don't need it, then you don't need it. I wouldn't say people should go for things like that, but if that's what you want, then do it, especially if it would make you happy as of that moment. But be careful of immediate happiness over long term happiness. So if you know in a long term you're happy and that's what you would want, go for it. But if you're getting those things, or like you getting more boobs, or like getting a BBL for the wrong reason because your friend has it, then you need to rethink, why are you worried? Like, why are you looking at your friend that has it? Is it because you're, and it could even be because you actually have a low self-esteem. Like, you want to have something that someone else has. I feel like we as human, Every one of us, we always, at some point in our life, we actually wanted something that someone else has. You have to be contented with what you have, and be mindful of your why. Like, be mindful of the things you do so you don't actually do the wrong things in life just because someone else is doing it. Oh, I was saying a story and I forgot, but let's move on. Okay, so that's like for the social and cultural influences. Just as a whole, the summary of that is be careful of be careful of like who you compare yourself to online, because a lot of times people online, they're not living true reality. They're not living true reality. So don't find yourself in that loop of doing something that someone else, is doing. In fact, there's like a lady that I follow on YouTube, and I remember when she got like a lip filler. She wanted her lips to look more plumpy, and before she got her lips filled up, I was like, this girl has a very beautiful lips, and this is like beauty standards. Like, your definition of beauty is different from my definition of beauty, but like when I saw her lips, like before the lip filler, or like the lips being filled, I'm like, this lips looks so beautiful, right? Like, oh my gosh, she has a gorgeous lips. And literally, she posted a video saying, oh, she's gonna get a lips filled. And I'm like, I don't understand. Wait, hold up. Why? Like, what exactly are you trying to fill up? And 6 months or like a year later, she was like, you know what? I'm actually not into this. I think I'm satisfied with my lips the way it is. And she was like, she wasn't gonna get her lips even more filled. If you look at that situation, that was a short term happiness, but for the wrong reason. She only wanted to do it just because other people were doing it. So then again, you have to be mindful of your why. Why are you doing certain things? Why? Like, why? All right, so we're gonna talk about how to overcome this negative self talk. The first one is keeping a positive cycle. I feel like I said this a lot. Um, you need to be mindful of who you keep in your space. Be very mindful of who you keep in your space. If you're even trying to be rich, keep people in your space. Even if they're not rich, make sure they have an abundance mentality. Make sure that they want to do something big for themselves and they're not thinking small. If you're trying to live a more peaceful life, make sure you have people around you that are more peaceful. Because guess what? Now you're not only thinking about yourself, now you're thinking about them. I'm not saying that people wouldn't have problems in life, but like, at what expense are you willing to sacrifice your peace? And at what expense are you willing to sacrifice yourself? And so, do not, and this is even aside from my point, because now it got to me that please do not pouring too much into people if you're not even getting anything. And this is not like a selfish thing. Like, I'm not coming from a selfish place, but when you keep giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, there's nothing left because no one's pouring into you. No one's helping you out. No one's giving you a word of affirmation. No one's doing anything for you. And then you become so tired and you feel like you're being like you're drowning. So avoid like just giving and giving to people so you don't get drowned up, really. Don't get drowned up at all. So if you have to like cut people off, and I'm a big believer of, if you have to cut people off because of a negative impact they have in your life, please go ahead and cut them off, and cut them off in a healthy way. Don't just like, you know ghosting them or something. Just, you can cut off slowly by, if you talk to this person every day, start calling the person every 2 days, and then cut it down to once a week, cut it down to once in 2 weeks. Obviously, they're going to ask you what's going on. And if you feel like you don't want to tell them, that's okay. Well, later on, I feel like people always get the memo. And if they don't get the memo, then you let them know. Honestly, I love you as a person, but I just feel like you need to deal with this negative side of yourself, and it keeps affecting me as a person. So, yeah, be mindful of who you keep in your circle, and like it's okay to cut people off. The next one would be self affirmation. I feel like I said this in my previous podcast. Always say positive things to yourself. Always give yourself like grace. When you wake up in the morning, be mindful of what you say to yourself. Not just even in the morning, like when you feel an exam, you hear things like people say, "Oh my God, I'm so dumb. Oh my God, I'm so stupid." No. "Oh my God, I'm so smart, but I need to get more smarter. Oh my God, I'm not stupid, but you know what? I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do this better." If you don't get a job, don't say, "Oh my God, I'm so dumb," or "Oh my God, I didn't do anything right." "Oh my God, I'm not dumb. I did everything right. But guess what? I'm going to work more on myself because I don't know what they were looking out for." And in an interview, feel free to ask questions. Why wasn't I picked? If you don't get a reply, that's fine, but at least you asked. And keep improving yourself. I'm all about like improving yourself. Do not let your current self just stop you. So give yourself words of affirmation every single time, whether or not. Talk to yourself, even if you don't look like your situation. Like even if the whole situation is not promising, say something cute to yourself. Say something nice to yourself. When you're going through an heartbreak and you're just so sad and you don't even know what exactly you're doing, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm this, I'm that." No, this relationship ended, but I desire I'm gonna get someone better, and while I'm gonna get someone better, I'm gonna work on myself too, because when that someone better comes along, you don't want to be in that bubble of disappointments, heartbreaks, and seeing yourself in a light that you shouldn't see yourself in. So why are you giving yourself words of affirmation? You also need to put in the work to be a better person, and that's the most important thing. The next one would be change your mindset on how you view things. Um, how will I put this? Okay, so I have a story about this actually. Um, Back in school, like college days, we had like these old game nights, like where all the students would gather like in a big hall, and we're like all playing games. And whenever we go for that bingo, like after the first time that I failed, and this comes down to self affirmation. After the first time I failed, I literally said, I told all my friends, I said, I don't think I'm ever gonna win anything in any bingo. The next time we had like the game bingo again, I failed. I didn't get anything. Not like I failed, but I didn't get any gifts, because when you shout bingo, you take your paper and run all the way to the front. And every single day I would go for that game bingo. I never won anything, because at the beginning of the game I would always say, "Oh guys, guess what? I already feel like I'm not gonna win. I already feel like this is just a waste of my time." And every single time that I said it, I was almost gonna win. Like all I needed was one number, and it was my turn to shout bingo, but I was always losing. And there was one game that what I said like broke me, which was like my last game of playing bingo in college. All my friends, like all of my six friends, they all shouted bingo. I was the only one left, and everyone was like, "Oh, be patient." I was like, "No, there's no such thing as being patient. Like, I'm not gonna win." I already had that negative mindset. Now, I'm not saying that I would have won any bingo. I don't know. I'm not saying that. Neither am I saying that, "Oh, it's all luck and all that stuff." Or maybe I'm just getting the wrong paper. But I was saying so much negative things that it became my reality. Like, it's not gonna work out, it's not gonna work out, it's not gonna work out. We need to be careful of like the words we say to ourselves, because sooner or later we begin to look like what we say. We begin to look like what we say to ourselves and what we say out loud. So, change your mindset. That's another way you can overcome negative self talk. Change your mindset on how you see things. The next one is stop thinking about what people say about you. Oh my God, stop thinking about it. And I promise you, people are always going to talk. The moment people stop talking about you, then you don't matter anymore. Really, you don't matter anymore. Like, you don't matter anymore. Like, no one cares about you. That's it. Let the haters hate, and that's just on period. Let them hate on you. You shouldn't you shouldn't let what people say about you stop who you are. We're like all stuck up in this bubble of like, oh my god, this person has this to say about me, this person has that to say about me. Yes, they're saying all that about you, but what are you saying about yourself? Are you saying what they're saying about you, or are you saying what you want yourself to be? Do not think about what people say about you, because people are always going to talk. Even when you do so well, people are going to talk. Even when you fail, people are going to talk. Even when you get your success in the right way, people are going to talk. Even when you're poor, people are going to talk. People are going to say, oh, she's poor, or he's poor because he didn't put in the work. People are always going to talk. If you're not eating healthy and like a health condition happens, people are gonna say, oh well, she wasn't eating healthy, that's why that happened. If you're eating healthy and like you're not, or will I say, all that big, and like you're just slim, people are still gonna talk. Oh, look at her, she's all skinny, she has bones all over her neck and everything, because she's not eating. People are always going to talk. So you need to stop thinking about what people say about you. You need to stop and block your ears from the noise. You need to block your ears from the noise, because people are gonna talk, and it's how you handle that situation that goes a long way in your life as a person. So people are always, always, always gonna talk, and just be mindful of like how you process certain things. The next one is stop judging yourself from people's success. I feel like I've said this before. When you're comparing yourself with other people and you're like, oh, this person is doing this person is doing that, you need to stop comparing yourself. Stop comparing yourself. Stop it. Stop looking at people's social media and like saying, oh my God, why am I not as successful as this person? Stop it. Work on yourself, and the more you keep going, and as long as you don't give up, the more you keep going, the better you become. And it's the little things that you do along the way that sums up to be a big thing. And that's why you get this word, a drop of water makes an ocean, or a drop of water makes a lake. But a drop of water, the more you keep pouring and the more you keep being better, sooner or later you become something that you never thought you would be. If you're trying to start an act, if you're trying to be, I would even say an actor or an actress, don't give yourself, don't be like, don't feel bad if you're not at a certain height you want to be, and looking at all your friends and saying, oh my god, this person is already there, I wish I could do this. And then sooner or later you don't even end up putting in enough work, because you spend all the time thinking about other people instead of focusing on yourself. And finally, I would say go for therapy. A lot of times we need people, or we need someone to push us or follow us side by side in our journey in life. And if you feel like the noise and you're not finding it easy to go through life in terms of like saying positive things to yourself, then you can try out therapy. Therapy isn't bad and it's a good way to self improve. I hear this a lot. Imagine, like, before I close this out, imagine you go visit someone and then the person tells you, do not think about monkeys, or do not think about sand, right? Literally, while I'm telling you this, guess what? You actually thought about monkeys. Like, you literally had a whole image about monkeys and you had an image about sand in the beach. Literally just thought about that. And it boils down to what you process in your head goes a long way. People are saying this, but what you say to yourself goes a long way. When you say words of affirmation to yourself, it goes a long way. So that will be all for this episode on overcoming negative self talk. Remember that life is a process, and obviously, all this cannot happen all at once. Even if you go for therapy, you have to be intentional about wanting to make a change. So, life is just a process, so do not be hard on yourself. Really, do not be hard on yourself. We will talk more next time on the Talk with Chelsea. Have a nice day. Bye bye.